An 8-year-old girl living in the nation's capital goes missing. Weeks pass before anyone raises the alarm. The man last seen with her kills his wife, then himself, leaving behind only questions. This is not just another missing child case. It's a story that shook Washington, D.C., and raised painful questions about how a little girl could vanish from the system that was supposed to protect her. This is the haunting disappearance of Relisha Rudd, a mystery that has gone unsolved for more than a decade. Relisha was born in October 2005. Teachers described her as smart, curious, and always ready to smile. But behind that smile was hardship. Relisha and her family lived in the D.C. General Homeless Shelter, a facility that once served as a hospital but had been converted into housing for hundreds of families. The building was run down, overcrowded, and plagued with crime. For a child, it was no place to grow up. Yet this was Relisha's home. People who knew her said she often looked to adults outside of her immediate family for guidance. That vulnerability, combined with the chaotic environment of the shelter, made her an easy target. At the shelter, Relisha met a man who would change everything, Khalil Tatum, a janitor. Tatum was in his 50s, married, and had a criminal record. But around the shelter, he appeared friendly and generous. He gave children gifts and candy, and some parents trusted him enough to let their kids spend time with him. Relisha was one of those children. Over time, she grew close to Tatum. Some reports say he bought her toys and even took her to events. To an outsider, it may have looked like kindness. In reality, it was grooming. And it would end in tragedy. In late February 2014, Relisha stopped showing up at school. At first, teachers noticed her absence, but her mother provided excuses. She told the school that Relisha was sick. Later, she claimed Relisha was under the care of a doctor. That doctor turned out to be none other than Khalil Tatum. This raised no alarms, at least, not immediately. By early March, surveillance footage showed Relisha with Tatum at a Holiday Inn hotel. She was holding his hand, walking calmly beside him. That footage would become the last known sighting of her alive. What makes Relisha's case especially painful is the series of missed opportunities that might have saved her. Her absences stretched for more than 2 weeks. During that time, the school accepted her mother's explanations without digging deeper. When a social worker finally tried to schedule a meeting with this so-called doctor, the truth started to unravel. By then, 18 days had passed since Relisha was last seen. 18 days that could have made the difference between life and death. Once the police stepped in, the case escalated quickly. They discovered that Khalil Tatum had a long criminal history, including charges related to guns and drugs. As investigators tried to locate him, the story turned darker. On March 20, 2014, Tatum's wife, Andrea, was found shot dead in a motel. Authorities immediately suspected Tatum. 4 days later, on March 25, Tatum himself was found in a park in Maryland, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. With him died the best chance of finding out what happened to Relisha. The man who likely held the answers was gone. Despite Tatum's death, investigators didn't stop searching. They scoured parks, abandoned houses, and even drained ponds. At one point, a landfill in Virginia was searched for signs of Relisha's body. Hundreds of volunteers joined law enforcement in hopes of finding any trace of the little girl. But nothing was found, no clothing, no body, no belongings. It was as if Relisha had vanished into thin air. With no evidence, theories about Relisha's fate began to spread. One theory is that Tatum killed her shortly after she disappeared, perhaps to silence her. Supporters of this theory point to his wife's murder and his eventual suicide as signs of violent behavior. Another theory is that Relisha was sold or trafficked. Some believe Tatum may have connections that allowed him to hand her over to others. The fact that she was never found strengthens this possibility. Then there's the hardest theory to accept, that Relisha may still be alive somewhere, not knowing who she really is. While this idea gives hope, investigators admit the chances are slim. Each theory leaves one truth unchanged: no one knows where Relisha is. The case also exposed deep flaws in the system. Why did the school accept excuses for so long without checking directly? Why was a janitor allowed such close access to children at a shelter? Why did social services not act sooner? Relisha's mother has faced criticism for trusting Tatum. But others argue that the larger system, education, child welfare, and shelter management, failed to protect her. In the end, no one has been held fully accountable. Relisha's disappearance left a lasting mark on Washington, D.C. It forced conversations about child safety, the failures of the homeless shelter system, and how quickly vulnerable children can slip through the cracks. D.C. General Shelter was eventually shut down in 2018, in part because of the outrage surrounding Relisha's case. But closing the shelter did not bring her back. To this day, her face remains on missing posters, her name still carried in marches and community events demanding justice. Relisha Rudd would be 19 years old today. Instead of celebrating milestones, graduations, birthdays, or dreams for the future, her family and her community are left with silence. Her disappearance is one of the most haunting unsolved cases in America. And until answers are found, one question will continue to echo through the years. What happened to Relisha Rudd?